after a series of quite messy, but sort of small-scale performances like Human Cost and some others, in 2012 we decided to do something really, really big in size. We decided to take a 16.5-metre wind turbine blade into the turbine hall at Tate. Tate Modern is the kind of flagship gallery of the Tate. It's got 4 different galleries, and it sits in the heart of the cultural kind of sector on the south bank of the Thames of London. This is the biggest space that they have, and they use this space for specially commissioned art installations. And what's interesting about this space as well is that when this was a functioning power station, this was the turbine hall, was where they generated the energy. So we thought, by taking a wind turbine blade into this hall, we're not only challenging oil sponsorship of the arts with a very kind of visual symbol of what should happen, but we're also presenting a viable solution to fossil fuels as a whole, and that's of course renewable energy. We made contact with a farmer in Wales, in rural Wales, and we found these wind turbine blades lying kind of fallow in the field, looking really beautiful, gathering moss. Beautiful, but very big. 16.5 metres long, unwieldy. So to get that, to be able to even move that from Wales at all, we had to cut it into 3 parts. You can see here a diagram of the 3 parts. And we took it to a warehouse in East London, where we made plans for fitting it back together, and installation for around 30 different artists into the turbine hall. So we had these 3 chunks of wind turbine blades. Big logistics. There's big logistics here that we have to deal with. So we thought we'd better get some more people. And this is a real opportunity for us to kind of really have some kind of mass participation in our work. So a couple of weeks before, we sent out invitations, a kind of open call to artists and activists alike to come and help us deliver a gift. We didn't say what it was going to be, we didn't say where we were going to go with it, although Liberate Tate is a bit of a clue. We gathered at St Paul's, which is of course where the Occupy movement happened a few months before. And it's directly opposite from Tate Modern, opposite on the river. There's a bridge called Millennium Bridge. It's a footbridge that you can walk over. And 3 figures in veils met around 100 people there. 6 women carried the tip over the blade, over the tip of the blade over the bridge. It was very windy, lots of elements, other people on the bridge. And there are some kind of tricky parts on that bridge where you have to kind of lift it up, turn it around, move it, some sort of corners and angles to go down. So it comes over the bridge with like 100 people following it, straight to the front doors of Tate. But while that mass of 100 people were following the tip of the blade, what the security guards didn't realise was that around the side of the building, the 2 big parts of the blade were wedging open the doors so that we could get everybody in. A classic kind of decoy move. So there was a kind of logistical moment as well, where if you look at the diagram there, you can see the blade is not really, well, will it really fit in? We measured it, but, it was centimetres. So we kind of had to do this thing where we had to kind of go like that to get it in with the angle of the kind of slope and things. And it worked. We were like, oh, please work. It worked. But that wasn't it. It wasn't over. There was a kind of kerfuffle there. There was like security guards came there because by then they'd realised that, it wasn't just this small bit. It was kind of a 16.5 metre in chunks and lots of people. So there was this kind of rather wonderful moment where one of the security guards actually lay down in front of the blade and he said, I'm not moving, you'll have to roll over me. And then Mel kind of cradles him and says, this is happening, it's an art project, it's happening. And then someone senior comes along and tells him to get up because it's not the look that Tate wants to do. We like that one. We think it's cool. So once the 3 parts were inside, we had to kind of use this sort of snaking motion, because the slope's actually quite steep, and these pieces are quite heavy, and they're on wheels, and we don't want them to run away and crash into children playing at the bottom. So we use this snaking motion to come down. And the 100 people that came with us started to form a human chord, and you can kind of see it beginning just around here. It took about an hour to put it together in total. And then everybody clapped. It was amazing. And the human chordman's clapping. But it seemed to kind of be really echoing throughout the gallery, and we looked up, and there's 3 balconies. The height of the turbine hall is 35 metres, so all balconies of all the floors look down. And they were filled with people who'd all been watching the whole time. Normal gallery goers, not people who have a particular interest or knowledge of perhaps BP's oil sponsorship and why that's bad. But they were there clapping. They could see this symbol of renewable energy filling the turbine hall and being installed. And then Tate puts a cordon around it, which is very much like the cordon it puts around its sculptures in its exhibitions. But it wasn't over. A couple of weeks later, we took 6 A1 prints of the installation, and we took a video documentation of the installation itself to Tate again. And we did this under the Museum and Galleries Act 1992, which says that a work given as a gift to the nation, it legally has to be considered to be part of the collection of a public gallery. They actually rejected the art object, funnily enough, but they accepted the documentation into the archive, which wasn't the point for us. The point was, and this is important, was that the board had to discuss this. They had to discuss Liberate Tate's intervention and the art object we put in there in order to decide whether to accept it or not.